Alrighty, traders, this is Blake Morrow. You are listening to the Daily Roundup webinar. Hope everybody's having a good trading session. Hopefully it's less frustrating than mine is. It's one of those days that I was up really good. Now I'm up just a little, and it's like, man, I should have just, thinking that the market's going to put two back-to-back counter trend moves days together. Seems like an impossible feat at this point. And you can see it in the the euro dollar, for example. Well, the euro dollar actually is trading pretty heavy considering. So the euro had this false breakout. We've fallen. Obviously, we've bounced back a little bit, but you look at currencies like the cable, and that's a hell of a bounce back. Now we are at resistance. If you guys, know where resistance is 31.85. We're slightly above that right now, but support and resistance is not an exact science. So, we're challenging resistance, maybe hourly 618. The Aussie, I mean, this is a hell of a bounce back. I mean, we were selling off. We found that that big trend line, right? This let's go back to the daily chart here. So we came back to that multi-year trend line here in the Aussie. We bounced, support being at 71.35. We had support at 71.25. So we came pretty darn close to that and then bounced pretty aggressively. So the Aussie has bounced. Now, one of the things, if you look at the Aussie, depending on where we go from here, but we're making lower lows for the most part. I mean, this is I guess a higher low or higher high, excuse me, but we're making lower highs. So on an hourly basis for the most part. So the Aussie, we'll see what happens by the end of the day. The Kiwi still trading pretty heavy. You can see we bounced and we broke 65 cents. Now we bounced, and the scary thing is if you're long the New Zealand dollar, I mean, you're probably thinking, oh geez, what happens if risk turns a little bit lower here? And speaking of which, let's talk about the S&P. The S&P has bounced back to the 618 retracement. Now, I do want to point out we've come to, that trend line support that we talked about. We hit it overnight. We bounced back, and we're at the 618. So I think where we close today is going to be pretty important for the S&P. If we fall from here, and I'm going to use that term loosely. If we fall from here, meaning if we, let's just say the S&P, by the end of the day, let me make this as whoops, there we go. Let's say by the end of the day, we trade down another 10 or 15 S&P points, like somewhere down here. That's going to start to raise some eyebrows. People are going to start to think, oh man, maybe the risk is that we do break this upsloping trend line here at the end of the week. But the flip side of that is, you look at the NASDAQ, and the NASDAQ is back at all-time highs. I mean, powered by Tesla. So I guess I'll talk about this since I did tweet it, and I just don't tweet individual stocks that often, very rarely. But man, Tesla, we just hit the 261% extension of this move, 161% extension of, you know what? I should probably do it like this. Almost 161% extension of this move. That was a bad. I should have looked at that a little closer before I did it. But we're into some pretty key resistance here. Not saying that it can't go higher, obviously, but if you're long, you got to be a little careful. Hold on one second, guys. I have got somebody from the office. Sorry, I had somebody from the office pinging me. Could you guys hear that? Could you guys hear him talking to me? I don't know how sensitive my microphone is. So when you have people talking to you, I don't know if you guys can hear it or not. But anyway, let's see. Brock said no, I could not hear them. Okay, yeah, they were like, hey Blake, and I'm like, Oh, Gavin said could not hear you there. Okay, that's good. Just because the speaker is not too far from my microphone. Anyway, okay, what was I going to do? Okay, so there's Tesla, some resistance coming up. Obviously, divergent relative strength. Just, keep that in mind. Some of these high flying stocks are, I can't say that they're done, but man, they are looking pretty extended. I'm sure we could go through a few of them. I mean, if you want to look like, you know, Microsoft's looking like it's consolidating. Here's let's see, Netflix, has peaked already. Amazon, Amazon's still looking strong, but in a wedge. It would be interesting if we make lower highs. So, again, you got a lot of these high flyers that are at resistance. Doesn't mean they can't go higher. It's just you can see why there's a struggle, and there's a lot of volatility around here in the FX or in S&Ps, and because of that, it translates to volatility in the FX market too. You get currencies right to pretty key resistance levels, and they're backing off. Like here's the U.S. dollar, Norwegian krona. We are right up against resistance, and we're knocking our head up against it. Not saying that we can't break out, but you can see why things are stalling. One of the currencies that I want to bring to your attention in particular is the Aussie yen. Now, the Aussie yen is probing for the very first time in a couple of months. We're probing some pretty key resistance, and you'll notice on relative strength, okay, relative strength is breaking down. Now, my guess is when you have relative strength breaking like it is, and as long as we close down here, now, obviously things can change. By the end of the day, the Aussie yen could be trading at 76.20, and that relative strength, that blue line will be probably right at support. But price will definitely be back in the triangle. But if we close a little lower, let's say the Aussie yen closes, let's say it, just for argument's sake, 75.80. So that's about 15 pips lower than where we're at. If we close down there, that daily RSI is going to be breaking down, and that's going to that is a pretty good indication to me that we might be rolling over in risk. As you guys know, the Aussie yen and risk appetite tend to go hand in hand. So I would be watching the Aussie yen by the end of the day. That's going to be a pretty important risk barometer in my view. Okay. What else I wanted to go over today? Kiwis trading heavy. Silly Canadian. This dollar Canadian, so irritating to me. Now, we did find support here intraday at the 618. Okay. And we could, and let's try to be creative here with the dollar Canadian. Let me take, I'm not going to delete that. I'm going to leave it for right now. Let's take this and let's do something like this. Okay. Now, let me make that a little thicker. Okay. And let's do this. And the reason why I'm going to do this is because this low here was at 161% extension of this move, this August move. Okay, so we found a low there. Now, this could be the left shoulder, complex head and shoulder pattern, right? Let's say the dollar Canadian holds around here and we don't go much lower. So we spend the next few hours consolidating around here. We could end up developing some sort of inverted head and shoulder pattern. It's not going to turn out correctly. Let's go over to the 4 hour. It could be a complex inverted head and shoulder pattern, which means that resistance is going to be back up here around the 132.50 to 133 level. So something to keep an eye on, just in case the market starts to show some weakness. We might get the dollar Canadian firming up a little bit after today's little swoon lower. But I'm more concerned right now with just this this support down here that held yesterday. It's a big deal to me because it's a multi-year trend line. right? It's a multi-year trend line that's holding. I just don't want to see it. I don't want to see it, back in the 30s. I'd like to see it, bounce around these levels, and that would be consistent with, the stock market bouncing or pulling back a little bit. But we have to see it. They're gonna go hand in hand. It's not going to be, I doubt it's going to be the dollar Canadian moving on its own. Hell, the finance minister, steps down and the Canadian doesn't even bat an eye, which, probably tells you a lot about it. All right, guys. So I want to thank you all for your support. That's probably it for my update, at least right now. Just be careful out there. It's really, really choppy, very annoying. I'm pretty frustrated in my trading right now. It's like I feel like a gerbil in a gerbil ball, but things are going to loosen up. Volatility will start to pick up, and let's hope it does it sooner rather than later. So, Jason said, Blake, I'm with you on the dollar Canadian. Really pissed me off this morning. Very difficult to trade any dollar pairs right now. Really amazed that the dollar can't even get a sustained relief rally into higher resistance. Yeah, especially with that false breakdown. But just think about that false breakdown. It's a false breakdown in the dollar. So, and one of the traders in the chat room put it pretty perfectly. I can't remember who said it, but we are in some very strong trends. Whether you're talking about, maybe it's Pauly that said it. Whether you're talking about the stock market, whether you're talking about the dollar, they're very, very strong trends all the way around. And to be frank, when you have these strong trends that are so persistent, it's kind of like, it is, you use the analogy of a ship, it's, unless you're getting some sort of blow off top, which, or capitulation, which could still happen, but realistically is not going to be the case. It takes a little bit of time to turn them, and equities have been very strong for a very long time, and I'm talking years. And the dollar has had a really big downtrend for the last, especially the last few months. So it takes a little bit of time to get them to reverse. Just always keep that in mind. All right, guys, have a great one. And if you are not a ForexAnalytix subscriber, make sure you check out our ForexAnalytix sponsored page and try us out. It's only $1 to try it out, but you can figure out how to get ForexAnalytix maybe for free for a period of time. All right, guys, thanks. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in.